Well, I appreciate everyone's patience. I had a few technical difficulties to sort out this morning, but we're here. We made it, though we're a few minutes late from the planned stream. And what are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to talk about affairs and cheating with people in an industry, hired industry like the painter that got hired to paint your house, or the personal trainer, or the massage therapist, or regular therapist, or plumber, general contractor, landscaper, pool boy. Okay, that'll stereotype. We're going to get into that a little bit because most people think that affairs, well, I don't know if most people think, a lot of what tries to get presented when somebody has an affair or cheats is that two people just had this massive attraction towards each other, and it just sort of happened. Like they met in some context, and they just were found themselves really attracted to each other, and they just couldn't say no, almost like it was an accident, right? And so you hear that a lot with cheating, like, well, it just happened. Well, it was an accident. You know, and 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 it's not that's not really true. Okay, that's not really true. It's not this it's not a it just happened accident. There's a bunch of things that preclude and set up the events to happen. And I talk about this and help you set the up proper boundaries for yourself in my community. I actually have a course on that as well, a cheat proof your relationship course. And I think people disregard how important it is. What usually happens is, not a lot of people are getting into cheat proof. Usually somebody will buy one of my other courses, but then they get into like my mastermind or my elite coaching groups, and they start their self development. And part of that self development is designing their life and deciding, well, what do I want my relationships to look like? What do I want my life to look like? And as they design that, they realize that the person they're with is, or the relationships that they might be getting into because they're out there dating, that there's some missing pieces, and that they had missing pieces in their previous relationships that weren't successful. And that missing piece was being able to have and enforce proper boundaries and standards for the relationship. And they realize, well, geez, I really don't have the knowledge or skills in doing this the way that I thought. And that's what usually happens when people are doing that self development and getting awareness of where the holes in their game are, and they're getting awareness of the things they need to improve. They come to realize that many relationships in the past didn't work, or perhaps the one they're in currently is not working too well due to a lack of proper boundaries or standards being set in the relationship. And it's usually, we can talk about on YouTube and, more extremist content creators, and, your kind of red pill rage type channels can talk about how, you just gotta, you gotta enforce this boundary. If she does this, she goes out on a girls' night, she comes home to all of her stuff out on the front lawn, like, nah. And that's kind of a Rollo Tomasi analogy. And I know what he means by it, and I'm not slamming on Rollo for it, because I get the analogy. There's some hyperbole there too, but people repeat that analogy with this as if it's like that is it, like that is like there's this hard line, and that's what you're going to do. I don't know one person. I don't know one person. In fact, if you know anybody, if you have done this, let me know. But I don't know one person where a girl went out on a girls' night out, let's say, and came home. She came home because to all of her stuff on the front lawn, and the door locked, and now she has to find a new place to stay. Like, do you know anybody? You do you know anybody who did that or where that happened? All right, because I sure fucking don't. All right. So there's hyperbole and it's an analogy. When that is said, that's more of an analogy of setting a hard line and having hard standards and abiding by those standards and having consequences. But that's not exactly how it works out. And so people will and my point in saying this is what's lacking is the skill in executing these boundaries, right? So, like, we can talk in hyperbole or analogy about having a hard line and a hard standard, but how do you illustrate or convey that standard or boundary in a way that is conducive of building a healthy relationship versus breaking one down or creating wedges between you and the person you're with? How do you do that? Right? If the boundaries or standards are crossed, what do you do really? How do you do that? The cheat proof your relationship course dives pretty deep into that, but it's a skill set you guys need to learn either way, whether you just even just joining my community for free will help you with that. Because without this skill set, you really cannot maintain frame in a relationship or and you can't have a healthy relationship. You can't have good dating experiences without this ability to enforce, well, to stick to and boundaries and standards and to be able to enforce them. All right. But as it comes to as and I have a story today I'm going to share. Should have probably mentioned that in the beginning. Hopefully, you know, people understand this is what I'm going to do. But I have a story today that about a woman that got obsessed with her personal trainer, and it's going to illustrate why these boundaries and standards are important. All right. Um, Many of you struggle even if I give you the tools, skills, or the tell you the how and give you the game to be able to do it, many of you will still struggle to be able to do it. Many of you will not create good standards for yourself or enforce boundaries. And the unfortunate thing is, many of you will not do anything about it. Like you're not going to fake. You're going to lie to yourself and fake yourself out and not face the fact that your boundaries or standards are weak. That's when many guys will do that. Okay. And the reason why is because of a lack of an inner game. All right. They're lacking certain components in their inner game and in their emotional self-control and they're not willing to face those things. There's a lot of what I call ego protection, right? And protecting your self-esteem, because if you face the fact that you are weak in some ways and cannot set these boundaries the way that you need to, then that's painful for many of you guys, right? And you don't want to be seen it or be felt like, you don't want to feel like you're a weak person. You don't want to be seen as that even to yourself. So people will, ignore or have that cognitive dissonance when it comes to this, which isn't good, right? Because that's not going to solve your problems. If anything, it's going to make your problems way worse. And so, with that, um, yeah, so with that, there's inner game stuff you need to work on. And that's something that is going to happen with my course that's going to drop pretty soon. Right. Oh, I cue this thing up. um, well, anyways, I had my thing queued up. I don't know. Okay. Well, so yeah, we have a course that's going to drop. It's called the Psychopath's Playbook. I'm trying to get to it, show a little quick ad for it because um it's 2 minute ad for it if you don't mind sitting through it. But I know some of you guys have seen it a million times, but you have to get on. I know I have to repeat myself over and over again because of how apathetic people are and they don't realize the value. And it's just a stupid thing. It's like you're just going through life, man, and you have no awareness of some of the things that you need to fix or change, and you don't see the value in stuff like what I'm about to present, and then you end up causing yourself a lot of pain because of it. And that's the sad part is that things blow up in your life. You cause yourself a lot of pain. You're not having the good relationships that you want. You're not living life the way that you want. And it's because of a lack of awareness of certain things and a lack of development in certain things. The psychopath's playbook is designed to help you develop some traits that can be very difficult for a normal person to develop. Unfortunately, psychopaths don't seem to have any problems with some of these traits. Traits like fearlessness or ruthlessness or mental toughness, even. And like, I mean, psychopaths don't have a problem with that because they have a brain disorder, basically, right? There's a neurological differences in their brain. So they don't struggle with the things that normal people struggle with. Now, they have other problems and they can often victimize others because of their problems. So I'm not promoting that you make yourself into an actual psychopath because that's problematic, but being able to retrain your brain and your nervous system to react to stressors and emotional distress and um, unconscious thoughts and things like that in such a way that it's more productive than how you're operating right now. That's pretty valuable. You know, if you could tap into some of the strengths that psychopathic people have without running into the obstacles, that would be a superpower. And well, that is exactly what the course is designed to do and promote and what it promotes. It's a superpower. It's by the end of this course, the guys who take it have it. Okay, they're going to have kind of a superpower in their back pocket when it comes to their mental toughness and their inner game. And so I want you to understand that because it's really important. And when I launch it, I'm only going to, I need to give my time because I'm going to be personally coaching people. So I need to be able to offer my time to the people that take the course, to include those who already will get the course as part of their membership in Mastermind and Elite. So I can't have 1,000 people or a couple hundred people take the course. I have to limit the attendance so that on the Zoom calls, I can answer everybody's questions and go through everybody's, training and accountability and stuff like that. And so that it is going to be the real deal. It's not just some weird grift. And I'm excited to do this with you guys. I'll show you the quick commercial and then we're going to get into the story, the cheating story. Okay. And we're going to break it down. All right. So here we go. Psychopaths are evil, but they are successful. And not because they're evil. They're successful because they're effective. The average man is drowning in overthinking, fear, people pleasing, and hesitation, while the most ruthless personalities walk through life winning while you are struggling and you are losing. But here's the truth. You don't need to be a psychopath to win. You just need to learn the traits that they mastered and use them without being immoral or having poor ethics. Focus so sharp that it cuts through distraction. Charm that bends social dynamics. Resilience that makes you unshakable. Ruthlessness, but with empathy for others. The ability to say no without guilt. Fearlessness in the moments that matter. Mindfulness that kills anxiety, and action taking that separates leaders from followers. This isn't about becoming a terrible person. It's about becoming powerful. Someone who leads, someone women trust and desire. Someone who commands his world instead of just reacting to it. And that's why I created the Psychopath's Playbook, a complete system for the good men, the non-psychopathic men, but for men who want the results without becoming evil and without wasting years of trying to figure it out alone. This is an inner game course that will allow you to tap into that thing that you have been missing, that thing that's inside of you that will allow you to make more money, seduce women, and succeed. If you're ready to unlock the traits that make the world's most effective men untouchable, click the link and get into the community. When this course drops, you will get your exclusive announcement, and you'll be on the list before it fills up. And together, we'll make you unshakable, undeniable, and unstoppable. This is where your old self ends and your rise begins. I'll see you there. Okay, well, that's fun, isn't it? Funds. Scouts out. Thank you very much. Gay. Okay. I'm just kidding. All right. So we'll get into the story now. But yeah, just make sure you're subscribing, liking, helping me out algorithmically. Now's the time to ask questions too. On the chat while I'm live, I'll be able to answer them. I'm not, any of those little super chats or whatever, those things help algorithms. So any help you give me there is appreciative. Um, Again, the YouTube system does not like me or my channels. So, but yet I offer life-saving advice to men. So how you can contribute is by supporting the channel, because that helps me get out this advice and this feedback to more and more guys who need it. All right. So I really, really appreciate that. All right. Let's get into the story here. Okay. Um, so it starts off with, all right, it's my wife admitted to me that she had quite an intense crush on her personal trainer. What's the next steps? I recently talked about personal trainers, right? And but it's not to demonize personal trainers. It's to illustrate a point. So when we look at cheating, what we're looking at is, it's not, again, it's not this magical event where two people are just this so attracted to each other that it just happens. Okay. Attraction, it's not to say that people aren't attracted to each other and that when they're cheating that they don't, a lot oftentimes, and this is the frustrating part for those who've been cheated on, the cheating partner has more intense emotions for the person they're cheating with than they do the person in their actual relationship. That's usually a pretty consistent. All right. And that's more intense sexually and emotionally. Okay. But the reason for that is not because the attraction of that person is so strong. The reason for that is because it's a transference of emotions that they've been lacking in their real relationship. So their actual relationship lacks a good, healthy sex life, lacks good, healthy emotional connection. They've lost that maybe over time. Happens very commonly with married couples. And then they find another person to stimulate those emotions that they're missing, that they've been starved for. All right. And that's what it's very powerful about it. The other person doesn't really matter. You can really put in anybody. All they have to do is be enough to facilitate. Like, so here's the thing, like, to be attractive enough, not just short term, but long term, and to be able to maintain that attraction for years and years and years, even though our mammalian brain is not designed for that. Our mammalian brain is really designed to mate switch. That seems to be what the research shows, even if a lot of researchers don't want to state that openly or admit that. Okay. It's not, I mean, people idealize the 30, 50-year marriage. So do I, by the way. I mean, I think it's great when people are able to do that, but that's not how our mammalian brains are designed. Not to say that you shouldn't strive for a long-term relationship. I think that one of the best ways for outcomes of total happiness and fulfillment in life is having the long-term relationship. Okay, so the data seems to show that a good, not a bad relationship, but a good one that is lasts a long time leads to greater fulfillment. So I'm not slamming on long-term relationships when I say this. People are unfortunately internet brained and a little bit retarded. So I have to, I'm so politically incorrect, dude. I don't know, but whatever, but they're just too busy scrolling and they're not really thinking things through, right? The mammalian brain and what it's designed for doesn't mean that that's what your outcomes need to be. Okay. My mammalian brain might want to tell me that I need to go beat somebody up or punch somebody out because they said the wrong thing to me, right? But then that could probably put me in jail. You know what I mean? So like that would be bad outcomes. There's a lot of people in jail right now, okay, in the prison system who followed their mammalian brains, okay, that told them what to do because they were responding to drives. All right. They're just responding to instinctual drives and not thinking through their actions. So you use your big human brain to think through your actions, to design your life, to set up parameters, to steer your mammalian brain into productive results. Okay. So, like, your mammalian brain by itself is not designed for you to have a 30-year marriage. It's designed for you to mate switch at best. Okay. And I can get in, I've talked about this at length in other videos, but that's just was the environment that we evolved from. Okay. People were dead early in tribal times. They were in polyamorous tribes and people died early. And then with the agricultural evolution, um, people started having longer relationships, but it was, that it really, our brains are designed for somebody to mate, stay together long enough for that kid to get old enough for the tribe to take care of it, right? And then they fizzle out. They move on. Okay. And then if they do that a few times in their lifetime, then they have genetic diversity, which means more survivability for the kids, potential survivability. And then that person dies early, that person's dead, between the age of 28 and 35 from tetanus or some injury or some, gets the what we would call a common common cold or flu. Today they get that in tribal times without medical facilities or care, and they're dead. You know what I mean? So anyways, we're just not designed for it. Um so what is it, so let's talk about what ends up happening here. All right. So, like, it's not I got a little bit off track. Oh, my bad. But yeah, I forgot why I was even digging deep into that. But anyways, so it's two things. There's a couple of things that happen that allow for cheating to occur. And it usually boils down to proximity or access to another person that you might be attracted to. Oh yeah, I remember why I was on that tangent. Because, like, okay, people have more intense feelings usually for the person they're cheating with versus the person they're in a long-term relationship with. That's where I was going with that. So attraction and being able to establish attraction, get into a relationship, and then maintain that attraction and that intensity long term requires a lot of different skills and a lot of different attributes that is a much narrower number of choices you have for that. So having, in other words, meeting somebody that you want to marry and be with for the next 30 years, your choices for that person is much more narrow than meeting someone you want to sleep with for a few months. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. The criteria of development and skills that person needs to have, as well as traits and attributes and even physical attractiveness, is much, much lower. Right. And although people do tend to cheat with others that they think is more physically attractive than the person that they're in the relationship with, that person may be physically attractive, but they're lacking all of those other attributes that would make a long-term relationship work. Yet it stimulates a high amount of sexual desire and a high amount of emotion when they're in that. And the reason why, that's why I was making that point about us not being designed for these long-term relationships. By instinct, we have to do things in order to make that happen and work, and us to feel fulfillment with that. And if you don't do those things, you end up in this situation where you and the person that you're with lose attraction and lose desire for each other. And then you're starving for desire, and you want to feel that attraction and feel that desire and feel the desire from another person. And then next thing you know, you meet a candidate for cheating, and then it just happens, right? So that's what goes on. And cheating is part of our DNA. It's very common. Don't think that there are cheaters and then that there are good people that don't cheat. when it comes down to our mammalian brains. If our mammalian brains would, any circumstance, anybody could cheat according to our mammalian brain. Okay. It's our morals, beliefs, and standards, and the things coming from our human brain, okay, our frontal lobe, that dictate our behavior. That's the thing that makes the difference between someone who cheats and someone doesn't. Okay. If someone is responding to their lower brain, cheating is going to happen, and it's going to happen for anybody. It's not a situation where, oh, this person's inherently bad and this other one's inherently good. Every single one of you listening to this, and all of your wives or girlfriends, your mothers, okay, everybody they all have the capacity to cheat, even if that's not something they necessarily would do, but they all have that capacity. You have to understand that, accept that truth, and then understand that what that means is you set up proper boundaries and standards in your relationship so cheating doesn't happen. All right. And you have to consciously and willingly be able to do that. So there's this thing, and then I'll get into the story, but this is kind of important. So let's think about hypergamy for a second. Open hypergamy. Okay. The social narrative in a gynocentric social order is to create open hypergamy and to shame and vilify men into accepting open hypergamy. What do I mean by open hypergamy? That means the constant option to be able to mate switch or sleep with somebody that she deems more genetically powerful. Okay. So anything, it seems like part of this is what one of the things that creates this divisiveness between men and women, the divisiveness between the sexes, is that women want to create open hypergamy for themselves on an instinctual level. Their monkey brain says, I want to be able to have all the opportunities available to me to go fuck some other dude. And even if I've made a commitment, even if I've, did that before God and country and priests and my whole family and my whole community knows me as the married lady, I want the ability to be able to fuck another dude if I want to. I'm not going to do it though, because I don't want to, and I'm trustworthy and I'm a good person and I love my husband, right? But I want the option. And if you ask me to close off that option, then you, sir, are abusive. All right. And you're coercive. That's how open hypergamy is being promoted in society. Okay. It's this idea that by closing, it's like this, women want this ability to be able to go to any establishment, any bar, any beach, any girls trip, any girls night out, any bachelorette party. Like, she wants to be able to go to the bachelorette party where some rich lady hired 10 male strippers. They're 9 out of 10 in looks because they're high priced guys or whatever. And they're all walking around with their dicks out. Okay. And they're all fucking all of her friends. And she wants to go to that party, and you're supposed to trust her. And if you don't say that she can go to that party, if you don't say absolutely the fuck not, you're not going to that shit, or I'm leaving you and I go fuck your sister, right? If you say that, that makes you a toxic bad guy. You're a misogynist. You're actually an abusive guy because you will not let her go to the penis party with all of the hot male strippers where all of her friends are getting laid, right? Why don't you trust her? Bro, don't you trust her? Don't you trust your woman to be able to go to the dick party where all of her friends are getting fucked and laid and all the craziness? Lots of drugs there too. Throw in a bunch of drugs and sex party. And why don't you? What's the matter with you? You know what? It's because you're insecure. You're insecure because you do not want your wife or girlfriend to go to the penis party with the drugs and the sex. This just you're an insecure man. That's must be what it is, right? Because you should trust her. So see how fucking stupid that is, right? Like that's just so stupid, but it's exactly what is being promoted in mainstream society right now. That as a man, you're not allowed to have a standard. You're not allowed to have a boundary. You're not allowed to have a say in what she does. You're supposed to just trust her. Well, here's the thing. And then I know, any naysayers, which are not, maybe not a whole ton of them on my channel, but any naysayers might say, like, oh, well, it's not like she's actually going to an orgy penis party with a bunch of like hot male dude guys, whatever, and her friends all cheat. Like that's and a bunch of drugs. Like that's not really what she's doing though. She's just going on a girls' night with her friends to go to bar hop in a local scene where there's a lot of available men at the bar. And then but I trust her and it's different. Like, okay, listen, yeah, I know that that's an extreme example to illustrate a point, but the point is still valid is that there needs to be boundaries and standards. And this idea that what it boils down to is that if you have any of those at all, you're going to be told that you're insecure. If you enforce a standard at all, you're going to be told you're abusive by the rest of society. Now, you hopefully hold frame in your relationship and you get a different answer from the woman you're with. When I execute and have and enforce boundaries and standards in my relationship, my woman understands that I care about her and I care about the relationship, and she feels protected, not limited or abused, you know what I mean, or anything like that. She doesn't feel like I'm an insecure man by saying, hey, here's the right standard of behavior that we need to expect out of each other in a relationship. She sees that as me leading the relationship and actually giving a shit. So that's the difference when you have frame, okay? Is that the person you're with will see what you're doing as different than what everybody else is gonna say. And everybody else is wrong and stupid, okay? Because they're not having good relationships. So when they say, oh, that's wrong and he's being too controlling and all that, understand if women execute their level of influence or control because you want to go to, let's say, some stripper party or whatever, where a bunch of bunch of like attractive prostitutes were hired by your multimillionaire friend, and you're going to go to that party and everybody's getting laid by these hot women, right? Whatever, and there's a bunch of drugs and everything at that party. If you tell your wife or your girlfriend, I'm going to this party, she absolutely will get all the support in the world to tell you that you better not go and I'll break up with you if you do, and all that stuff. She'll get all the support in the world to institute her own boundary and try to enforce that. Everybody will tell her she's right and you're wrong. And in my opinion, that's probably not a good party to go to if you're in a relationship. Well, right, of course, in that extreme sense. But you'll notice that women get all the support in the world and then they have the absolute double standard. You know, women will do coercive tactics to make it so you can't even hang out with your friends, because God forbid you might be breaking a boundary. But then she fully expects to be able to go out, put on her slut dress, and go out and fucking let whatever happens happens, right? So that is hypergamy and open hypergamy, and how society is supporting that and influencing men to accept it. Well, if you accept that, these are the scenarios you're going to get into. I can remember, like for example, like the fact that I have an opinion that I don't see any value other than the opportunity to cheat for a woman to hire a personal trainer that is a man. The only exception is like competitors. Like if you're an elite level competitor and your posing coach is a guy because he's the best in the area in that bodybuilding niche, or if you're in like the Olympics and you have a male coach, right? Okay, these things are different, but that's not the majority, not even close, right? 99% of women are just going to the gym to get their New Year's resolution on and whatever, and then they decide to want to hire a trainer. There are as many women personal trainers as men. Why aren't they hiring a woman who knows a woman's body through experience, the hormonal cycle, and the different challenges a woman has? A female trainer would understand that better, right? Than your average personal trainer guy that's just this decent looking young gym guy who got a certification in a weekend. Why is the married woman, the 35-year-old, 40-year-old sex starved lady going to the 23, 24, 25-year-old hot dude personal trainer at the gym? There's really only one reason for that, right? And I say that and oh my God, people, no, you're just crazy. And it's not. I remember I remember I've had these discussions with some of the more headstrong women out there, and they absolutely have no idea how stupid they sound. They really don't. It's just like they're just so oblivious. And I think to myself, when I've had these conversations with women in my social circles, because they'll bring stuff up like that because they like these particular women like enjoy conflict and drama. And so they'll want to argue with me about these things. I've had that happen in the past. And they don't realize there's a cognitive dissonance on how stupid they sound trying to defend this idea, you know what I mean? That a woman should be able to just go to any male personal trainer. What's the problem? What's the issue? Why you're insecure? No, no, there's no value or reason for that. Why would a woman? This is the craziest thing, and I need to do like a whole separate video on this. But it's funny. Back, I was dating somebody years ago, right? And we're talking about getting massages, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine. We can want to go get a massage or whatever. That's cool, but make sure it's a woman. Make sure it's a female massage therapist. Oh, I'm just insecure. I'm an idiot. How dare? What do you mean? You know, you know, and a family member of this woman went. She's trying to have this conversation. We're just sort of talking, and she's like, "Well, that just seems, you should be able to go to my. Shouldn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter." In the same conversation, like the next paragraph after telling me that I was wrong for having the standard that girl that I'm with and is in any sort of commitment with me isn't going to fucking male to to manipulate her body and make her feel good, right? Like there's an element of massage that for a woman is going to bring about sexual feelings regardless of any woman and regardless of what it is. Do you know what I mean? There's the potential, a high potential, because of a massage to bring out sexual stimulation, sexual feelings. Very normal for that to happen. So why do I want some guy having his hands all over the woman I'm with to do that? Right? That's just, to me, that seems like a boundary violation. And I'm being told, people say, "Oh, you're crazy for that." What about a gynecologist? A gynecologist is different. Gynecologist is not there to make her feel good. The gynecologist is a medical professional examining her. Okay, so a male gynecologist is not the same as a male massage therapist whose job is to make the other person feel euphoric feelings, right? And elevate her emotions and feelings and physical sensations to euphoric levels. That's what a massage therapist is supposed to do. Why should she be going to a guy to do that? She shouldn't be. Not in my opinion. I mean, you may have different opinion. Let me know. But that why should she be doing that and getting aroused with this guy? And it's like it's not even about cheating. It's about why would you want to do it though? Like even if the girl isn't gonna cheat and all this, and I'm her sexual best, it doesn't matter. Why does she want to put herself in a situation to be sexually stimulated potentially during a massage by a male? Well, that's not the guy that she's with. Why would she want to do that? That's the real question. So, anyways, in the same conversation this woman is having with me, telling me how wrong I am and it's not sexual and this and that. The next paragraph, dude, I couldn't fucking write it any better. Like I couldn't make this up and write it any better than how it happened. The next paragraph, she goes right into a story about how this massage therapist almost made her orgasm during a massage and then tying it off at the end with, well, and he was pretty good looking too and all that. And that was when she was with this particular one of her ex-husbands. Couldn't make the shit up, dude. It's like, that is like, do you realize how stupid you are? Like, you just went into an entire argument how I'm wrong and that I'm insecure and I'm way overblown and I'm too controlling. I'm too controlling to say somebody that is sexually committed to me shouldn't be going to a male massage therapist, right? Too controlling. I'm a controlling, misogynistic male. But by the way, a few years ago, I was getting a massage by this hot dude and I almost came. I thought, what? Like a lot of these women out there, dude, they don't realize how fucking stupid they sound. And it's just this open hypergamy. That's what's going on. And so like we have these situations, which is why the rates of cheating have gone up for women. There's some evidence out there that women are cheating more than men now. I don't know if that's true or not really. But there's some evidence to say, okay. So that's been on the rise. And it's this open hypergamy thing. You're being shamed into not having standards. And that's where guys would allow these sorts of things to occur. Your value in the relationship should be that you don't put yourself in situations that would be disrespectful to the person you're with, or that would give the appearance of impropriety or bad things happening. Okay. That should be the standard, is that you don't have the appearance of bad things happening. She doesn't go spend one-on-one time on a friend date with a guy at work. You know what I'm saying? And being in close proximity. And even though she's not having sex with them, if it appears like they're dating and potentially having sex, that is a boundary problem, because it's disrespectful to the person at home and it opens up all these doors. Okay. And you have to have that understanding. And you have to have these healthy boundaries and standards, which most people today do not, which is why infidelity happens. So now into the story here. So this woman has an intense feeling about her personal trainer. What's the next step? So he says, we've been together for 15 years and married for 10. So 10-year marriage. In that time, she's always done something fitness wise, be it running or gym or cycling. About a year ago, she decided she wanted to be stronger and she started doing weights at the gym and she was getting there. But around 4 months ago, she said she needed some guidance and started doing sessions with one of the gym personal trainers. All right. Here's the dark secret. Women often seek out professionals that they get to interact with that make their vaginas wet. That's part of hypergamy. All right. And a lot of guys do that too. Guys, I mean, in real estate, for example, back when I ran a real estate team prior to, being a psychology professional, right? I ran into that all the time. Like where guys would hire just some hot dumb girl to sell their house instead of my team. So guys do it too, right? Guys will just give opportunities to women because they're hot, whatever. Well, women do it too. Okay. But the problem is a guy can treat it like a strip bar. A lot of times that's it, most of the time it doesn't evolve into cheating. A guy hires the hot girl and she's really great and smart and whatever, like she's my favorite. Oh, she's my favorite bartender at my favorite bar, my favorite restaurant. It's like she's not a good bartender. She's not a good fucking wait. She's not a good server. She's average at best, but she's just hot. She's hot. You simp for her. That's what happens. And guys can simp for a girl and then go home and that's it. Women sometimes can do that, but oftentimes because their sexual attraction triggers are different. There's more of an emotional component to a woman's sexual attraction triggers. Women will get um, very into the person that they're hiring. That they hired them originally, and without really saying so, their mammalian brain thought that person was cute, thought that person was hot, so they're going to hire them, right? And that influences the hiring. They're not necessarily thinking about cheating. But because of the way that women emotionally bond and attach with sexual feelings, a woman will then obsess and crush and pursue and do all kinds of things, especially when she's a married for 10 years, sex starved woman, right? And that's what you end up seeing here. So this is why you have to have boundaries and why open hypergamy should not be allowed and shouldn't be something you just allow in your relationships. All right. So she hires this personal trainer. She was really enjoying it. And about a month ago, upped it from 2 sessions a week to 3. There had been a notable change in her strength, and I was happy for her as she seemed to be really proud of herself. Then this weekend, she dropped a bombshell on me. I noticed our sex life had pretty much come to a stop a couple of months ago, and I spoke to her about it, and she said she was sorry. It was just stress of starting a new job mixed with cold weather, and she just wasn't in the mood. I thought that was fair enough, and I'd leave it and let her lead the pace when she was uh, ready to have sex again. All right, so what are the number of problems that this guy's having? He's fallen into this is your average blue pilled guy falling into the gynocentric social order. Okay. He's letting the woman is leading and dictating what happens in the bedroom. The woman is leading and dictating. Well, whenever you feel like it, you'll just let me know. Okay. No questions about cool. Like you hired a personal trainer. Nice. Tell me about your trainer. Like how's they're probably not having those discussions. Oh, your trainer is a dude. Well, why would you hire the dude instead of the girl? Right? Like no discussion. They're not even having open discussions about this. And this guy, if you were in front of me right now and if I were to say, well, why didn't you have these discussions with her? Well, I didn't want to come across as insecure. Well, I didn't want to come across as controlling. Well, that seems a little bit crazy, don't you think, to be questioning her about her personal trainer? See what I mean? It's like, no, dude, that's not fucking crazy. That's called being in a relationship and having boundaries and standards for yourself. And as a man in the relationship, you lead it and you ask these fucking questions. And if you don't like the answers, you enforce consequences. Okay. And some of those consequences could be, if she's not willing to maintain boundaries or standards, maybe she's not deserving of the relationship. Right. So most of you guys are not ruthless enough to be able to be able to have this conversation, to be able to enforce the consequence. And that's why I got the Psychopaths Playbook course, because you need a little bit of ruthlessness with these women to be able to handle this shit. Okay. Because otherwise they're going to walk all over you. And here's the funny part: when you execute that, and maybe people don't like the word ruthlessness, but when you execute that ruthlessness, right? That willingness to maintain your boundaries or standards above her, like you're not going to just let your boundaries or standards fall by the wayside because you love her. All right. You understand that if you don't love your boundaries and standards more than her, there's going to be no her. There's going to be no relationship. And in that understanding, you calmly and assertively execute those boundaries, having it because of the shaming and the crying and oh, I can't believe he's doing this. I can't believe he's blah. Okay. And the emotional manipulation. A man today has to have a level of ruthlessness in his relationship. Here's the funny thing though. When you have it, guess what? She's more attracted to you. When you have that ruthlessness and you're able to lead unapologetically and not be emotionally manipulated, her attraction goes way through the roof, guys. It works out in your favor. Okay. A lot of guys don't realize that's the trick. That's the thing. All right. So continue. So yeah. And you should be able to see also when you're with somebody in a long-term relationship, notice pattern changes. She went from being relatively sedentary to now all of a sudden on a fitness kick and she's going to get her body in shape. That's a good thing. That's a positive thing. My girlfriend right now is on her fitness kick. Guess what though? We go to the gym together. You know what I mean? We both enjoy it. And so no red flags there, right? Because I know why she's on the fitness kick. I know what the motivation is, and it's something we do together. So it's adds to our relationship rather than taking away from it. So girl, all of a sudden going to the gym, I mean, that can be a red flag or that can be a green flag. Depends on what the reasons are. But when you see a pattern change, you got to ask yourself, why is that pattern changing? What's going on? And if you get a lot of aloofness and cognitive dissonance and non-answers and distance and emotional distance, and then also seeing that evidence in your sex life, well, you should realize you have a problem. That is a major sign that something's going on. And that potentially she's cheating on you or at least planning to. Again, cheating happens not because of this attraction. God, my throat. Not just because of attraction, but because of cognitive dissonance. No, that wasn't the way. It happens because of proximity, is what I meant to say. There is cognitive dissonance that happens too, but it happens because of proximity to attractive people. And so the opportunity is there, right? And there's a willingness to create that access, right? And there's no boundaries when this opportunity is present. So that's why cheating. I mean, if you can look at it like that, let me put that in plainer, better articulated terms, because I'm off this morning a little bit. So in better articulated terms, proximity to potential cheating candidates plus a lack of boundaries equals cheating. So that's the formula. Okay. So you got to look at it like that. It's not whether or not she thinks you're the best or not. Desire and thinking you're the best she's ever been with is the strongest defense you have. And I cover that in my cheating course. It's the strongest defense you have, but that's not what the reason necessarily like that's going to happen, because girls will cheat with on guys that they think is, the best guy she's ever been with, some girls will cheat on that guy. Sometimes it's a revenge cheat. Sometimes it's just unchecked egos, man. Like she just can't get enough fuel for her ego, and so she's gonna fuck some other guy, even though she's with the best guy she's ever been with. Some girls are like that too, and they have that wiring and that triggering, that attraction trigger. Things are going, maybe things you go through a dry spell or things aren't going too well for a few months. In short-term thinking, she ends up doing something she shouldn't or crossing boundaries. And maybe it's not a full-on onslaught of sex, multiple months and months of regular sex with a cheating partner. Maybe it's just, really crossing into some flirtation or crossing into, having these moments or having an inappropriate emotional relationship with another guy. Oftentimes when a girl is with the most alpha, best guy she could be with, she falls into a mistake of having emotional cheats and emotional, relationships or whatever with some guy that's in her social circles in proximity, right? And that's what open hypergamy does. And that can develop into an actual physical cheat. That's the beta male strategy, really, is to orbit himself around women and to try to catch them in a moment of low self-esteem and weakness, where then she might sleep with him, right? So like keeping these male orbiters, these sorts of things, and then a girl just has that, those opportunities, those moments of crossing these boundaries. Well, if there aren't any boundaries that are expressed, then it's like that's why this stuff happens. So it's not just attraction, because attraction for a woman especially is built. Granted, she might see a guy and be immediately attracted to that guy. That can happen. But the difference between seeing a guy being immediately attracted and then nothing happening, and she goes home and she fucks her husband, okay, versus that turning into a thing, has to do with these two components: proximity, or being around attractive people in a particular environment where that's conducive of developing these types of relationships, and then no boundaries. If she's in proximity, but she has boundaries, nothing's going to happen. You can try to remove all the proximity, but then that creates a situation now where a girl can't live her life. Now, there are certain things, situations that she should never put herself in, okay, like particular bachelorette parties, like drug-fueled girl nights out, right, where her friends are all cheating with other men, or vacations or stuff like that. She should not be giving herself that opportunity. That's part of the boundaries. But maybe she does go to work. Does she go to the store? Does she go anywhere, or is she locked in the basement, right? If she leaves the house, okay, there's going to be times in her life where there are these opportunities and where she's in proximity of other potentially attractive men that she could cheat on you with. Well, that's where the boundaries come in. You remove, if there's no boundaries and she's in like high proximity, forget it. You know what I mean? Like you're inviting a problem. And women today with open hypergamy, they want to invite that problem. They don't want any boundaries enforced or expressed by you. They want their own boundaries, quote unquote, that they get to change whenever they feel like it. And they want as much or as little proximity to other men and potential opportunities as they see fit. And if you have any opinion at all on it as a man, then you are a misogynist, abusive asshole. That's the narrative. So you got to be tough on this, or else you're going to end up in these bad situations. And many of you have lost your girlfriends, have exes who you're not sure, you don't think cheated on you, but she did. You don't think she transferred her emotions to another guy and had inappropriate relationships and boundaries with other men because you didn't see it and you just don't want to believe it. But the reality is, many, many, many of you have. I've been to many conferences, many out of town situations where girls with husbands at home are getting their nether regions blown out, okay? And the husband will never find out. He'll never know. They divorce 3 years later, and the narrative for the divorce has nothing to do with her getting her bottom half exploded while on a girls' trip, vacation, or on a work conference or whatever it is. I mean, so many of these women are like sharks when they go to these things, seeking out opportunities, to include women at the gym, by the way, and especially high, especially really busy, but like, upscale. I don't know what you want to call it, but like your lifetime fitnesses and stuff like that, where they offer tons of amenities and it's really like upscale and they got a spa and they got this. Married women all over the place go to those places and they are sharking for hot dudes to cheat with. I mean, that's the reality of it. It is what's happening. It's not fake. It's not bullshit. It's what's happening. So, and all their men at home have no boundaries or standards. They've been shamed into submission. They've been shamed into being a shell of a man. They don't have those things going for them. So that's what's going on. So when that goes on, this is the kind of shit that happens. I'll finish the story. So this guy's getting to recap. The sex has gone down. She started upping her sessions with a personal trainer. She's basically saying, I'm not in the mood. And he's just like, all right, I'll back off. Anyway, so continuing, he writes, well, this weekend she told me that she has developed a very intense crush on her personal trainer. And while she knows crushes happened in relationships, this feels like it's more. All right. So when somebody is transferring their emotions to another in a cheating situation, they always feel like it's not just limerence or it's not just a crush. They always feel like, their emotional centers of their brain are telling them that this is the one, this is real, this is serious, like it's they always feel like it's a big deal. And it's not. It's just some fucking random guy that's attractive to her and she hasn't felt the tingly feelings in a while. He makes her feel tingly and she doesn't have any boundaries. And so now that's all it is. There's no meaning to it. Okay. There's no meaning to these situations. This guy is shit. He's nothing. This whole thing is nothing. It's just her pussy getting wet for another guy. That's all it is. Which you should eliminate her from your life if that's what's going on. This thought of like, well, crushes happen in relationships. No, they don't. You know why they don't? Because of boundaries and standards. A crush can't happen if a woman has a boundary and standard to not fuel those feelings and continue contact with somebody or having inappropriate contact with somebody. That's why crushes don't happen in healthy relationship. If a girl even thinks that there is the possibility of her boyfriend or husband thinking she might have a crush on someone, what she does is she minimizes that contact. She sets up appropriate boundaries. She has more of a professional or platonic interactions, and she's careful not to cross those lines. I've met many women who do this very well. There's not, I mean, today in 2026, most women do not do this well, and they're given, they're I can't, my vocabulary, it's like I can't think of a fucking word for anything today. But most women are like they're cheered on by their friends, for not having appropriate boundaries, right? They're given support. They're given yeah, I don't know what the fucking word is for it. Big old thumbs up, whatever, you know what I mean? From everybody. Okay. Like for not having boundaries. But like I've met many women out there who have the boundaries, who do well with having boundaries. And they're not having crushes. That's not a normal thing. So, but that's the story that he's telling, and that's what their belief is, which means, and that belief comes from a lack of boundaries. Okay, so she said she finds herself constantly seeking his attention, either at the gym or on social media. She has started tagging him in all of her posts, but I just assumed it was more of a giving credit thing. She's tagging this guy, probably with gym selfies and all that, right? And she's just tagging him in all of her posts on social media. And her husband doesn't, not even a red flag to the husband, right? Then she admitted she has started wearing less and less clothing at the gym to get his attention, which is something I hadn't noticed, as she always takes her gym bag with her and gets changed there. She admitted that the last few times we had sex, she fantasized that it was him. And that's why she stopped having sex, as she felt too guilty. Probably the worst thing she told me was that a few days ago, she saw him having a personal session with someone else, a younger woman more closer to his age, and she saw them laughing together and she got jealous and upset that she had to leave the gym and go cry in her car. She said he has done nothing to encourage this and has been nothing but professional throughout all of this, and he is not at fault. I don't know what to do. I'm crushed. Do I just sit back and wait for the crush to stop? Question mark. So this guy's his first idea of what to do isn't to institute a boundary or standard. It's to go, should I just wait it out? Should I just stand off in the background and just wait for her to stop masturbating and to this guy and maybe fucking this guy also? Maybe I should just sit back and hold down the fort and pay all the bills. Well, she fucks another guy. When she's finished, she'll come back to me. So notice the open cuckoldry that's happening here too. She's telling this story to her husband. She's telling the truth, probably, unless they're actually fucking. She might be fucking the trainer. Well, certainly she wants to fuck the trainer. Who knows really what's real there, because we don't know. But she's telling the story in such a way where she's basically cucking the husband. She's letting the husband know, I have a greater attraction and desire for this other man than you. He is better than you. And now here's my story about it. And you have to sit there and listen to my story and suck on sadness and eat all of the angst and pain you have for being a lesser man. And I get to watch you eat that pain. And boy, oh boy, I'm going to be more and more tingly and horny for this other guy while I watch that. While I watch your pain and suffering, as I tell you in detail how I want this other guy and it's not you, boy, am I going to get horny for this other dude. That is what's going on here. Okay, that's what this is. Now, people will say, oh my gosh, terrible. YouTube algorithms are going to censor this video, guaranteed, because my tone, it's anti-woman, it's as if being anti getting your ass cucked is somehow anti-woman, but that's the narrative. And so at any rate, that's what's going on here, clearly. Now, here's the fucked up thing, the funny thing. Funny, but sad. Had this guy instituted a boundary and a standard, and things like noticing, why are you tagging this fucking guy in all of your posts? Why are you seeing this male personal trainer in the first place? Actually, we're not going to do that. Now I'm going to handcuff you to the bed and rail you until I feel better about your potential indiscretions. And now, okay, the handcuffs are off and you're hiring a female trainer. Okay, good game. Slap on the ass. Right? Now go get your fitness on with fucking Amy or whoever your fucking the trainer you're going to have is. Had you done that from the beginning, okay? Had you been ruthless enough to do that, he wouldn't even be in this position. And guess what? She would be more attracted to him. The lukewarm, politically correct psychology answer to some of her behavior is she's seeking out his attention. He's not paying any attention to her. He's not seducing her. He's aloof. So in order to get attention, she's telling him the story and she's doing all this, and it's attention seeking. She's not getting the attention from her husband that she needs, so she's seeking it out from another guy. And that would be correct, but there's a lot more to it, which is what I said. Okay. Had this guy have instituted a ruthless level of standards exactly the way I just described, she would have more orgasms, number one, with him, okay, because he's having dominance over her. And she would feel a lot better about hiring a girl. She wouldn't be seeking out this attention from other men. You see what I'm saying? Her attraction and desire would go up for her husband had he been ruthless enough to institute the correct boundaries and standards in the correct way. That's the sad part about these stories. So his best laid plan was to sit and wait it out. Anyways, he continues. Do I demand she changes gyms and blocks the guy? We've all had crushes and relationships and eventually they go, but I feel that this one won't. She's being alone with him 3 times a week and follows him on her social media accounts. I feel like distance is how you get over this, but I don't want to come across as controlling. So he mentions a lot of the right answers. You stop seeing the personal trainer, change gyms, block the guy. All those things are right answers. But he doesn't want to suggest that because he doesn't want to seem controlling. This woman just said, I am crying in my car out of jealousy because I want my lower half pummeled by this guy so badly that I'm going to cry in my car over it. That's how badly I want this guy to pummel my nether regions. And that's what she's telling him. And he's afraid to say, you know what? I'm not comfortable with you seeing this trainer. I think you need to get a different trainer and possibly go to a different gym. He feels like he'd be controlling for suggesting that. That's how fucking crazy we are now. That's how indoctrinated men are into this retarded female social order where they are submissive men, dude. That's how submissive men have become today. It's unreal to me. It's insane to me. So continue. What do you think? He says. She doesn't want to change anything and she thinks it'll just go away on his own. So, oh, yes. Sorry, this is wrong. This isn't correct. There's no magical way, yeah, but there is a correct way to set boundaries. There absolutely is correct ways and there's incorrect ways. So that's just a fact, so that's not exactly, I'm not sure if you meant to write that the way you did, but that's not exactly true. Okay. I'm reading some of these comments here. All right. That is correct. She's enjoying, that's the cuck psychology. My most popular videos, unfortunately. Woman's crush is the equivalent of a man getting drunk, cheating on his woman, and then taking the mistress shopping the next morning and spending his money that was allocated to the family. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Because, and the reason why Yuri is correct in this sounds extreme, but there's a double standard. Well, yeah, because men and women are different, right? And when a woman who usually, not in my relationships, but usually the woman holds the key to the access to intimacy. So, in most relationships, intimacy, well, in any relationship, intimacy is a requirement for making that relationship stay healthy and to continue in the right direction. Women tend to hold the key to the intimacy. In other words, they withdraw intimacy when they feel like it or offer it when they feel like it, right? Now, a guy having boundaries and standards and saying, if you're going to be in a relationship with me, you're going to hand over the keys and we're going to have intimacy. And that's how it's going to be, or we're not having a relationship. Okay. If a guy, in absence of a guy having those standards and saying, hand those fucking keys over, what happens is she holds the keys to the intimacy. And even if a guy she hands those keys over, he can still, you know what I mean? She can still like want to withdraw that or withdraw her intimacy. So like she still has that power, you know what I mean? And you have to have standards in your relationship that you're not going to use intimacy as a tool to control your relationship. That has to be the standard. But guys don't have any standards, so that doesn't happen. And then what happens is so this is why it's so bad. I mean, she holds the key to the intimacy of the relationship. And then by having a crush on someone, she is allocating the resources of her sexual availability and desire to somebody else, right? Even if she's not having sex with this trainer, she's not having sex with her husband. You see what I mean? So, like, it is exactly this analogy is actually correct, right? Oh, so we have a nice negative comment here. Charles says, so you're pretty much assuming all women cheat. Maybe it's not them, it's you and the way you treat them, dipshit. All right. I don't get very many negative comments, so I do enjoy when it happens sometimes because you're an idiot, sir. You are an idiot. If you listen to the video and if you listen to my content and if you can sit and understand cheating psychology for more than a 2 second scroll, you'll understand that there's a difference between the mammalian brain and your conscious human brain. And the mammalian brain is very savage and amoral, and it operates on instincts and emotions and may have feelings of doing something. One of those feelings is having sex with somebody. So every person, man or woman, has the capacity to cheat, to execute their mammalian brain drive and fuck another person. You don't want to recognize that, probably because you have low standards in your relationships and you don't know how to handle women. So you want to feel safe and believe that there's good women out there that would never cheat. When the reality is, every woman has the capacity to do it. The difference between a good woman who doesn't cheat and the ones who do isn't their mammalian brain drive. It is instead their boundaries and standards that they have for themselves and that the man has in his relationship. So, in absence of boundaries and standards, the mammalian brain can do whatever it feels like doing. And any woman has a capacity to cross lines or step out. That's a very human thing. And if you understand that this aspect about women, which you don't understand women, okay, but if you understand women, then what you understand is that women are human beings. You take them off the pedestal. And you recognize that women are humans who are capable of making mistakes, just like any man. And you respect and honor them for their humanness, but you also understand that as a human being, we have to do certain things so that we don't fall to having mistakes. And a woman who isn't a cheater is completely on board with that and is happy to have boundaries and standards for herself and in her relationship. And she's happy to be in a relationship with a man who executes boundaries and standards. That makes her feel good, not bad. Okay. But if you don't have any value to bring, which sounds like you don't know how to stimulate attraction in a woman and desire in a woman, then all the women in your life aren't going to want your boundaries and standards. They're all going to sit there and go, how dare you have a boundary with me? How dare you say that I can't do this and that you're not comfortable with it? You're insecure. You get those things because your woman doesn't come with you. You understand? She doesn't have orgasms with you, guy. That's why you're not fucking her well enough. And so she doesn't care to have you tell her what to do. You see, women love when a guy is railing her out the way she needs to get railed. They love being told what to do by that guy. They may have some internal conflicts about it. And of course, it's up to the guy to not be an asshole about it, right? But they want to be led by the dominant guy. That's not you. You see, that's not you. And you can fix it, but you won't. And you're going to be miserable, which is why you felt the need to comment a negative comment on my video, because you're miserable and women don't like you. They don't come with you. They don't have orgasms with you. And if they do, if they didn't lie about it, it's like lower level compared to what they could be having or what they've had with an ex or whatever. And that's why they're not comfortable with you setting a boundary or standard. Shit changes when a woman sees you as being the guy that she's emotionally and sexually bonded to. Things change when she sees you as that best. When she's and what does that mean? When she's having mind-blowing orgasms with you, she's ready to reevaluate some of her feminist values, right? Maybe up until that point, she was like, I'm not going to let a man tell me what to do. And if he says he's uncomfortable, he doesn't want me to do this, I'm just going to do it anyway. Yeah, that's how she felt until this dude made her, made her eyes roll in the back of her head. And when that happens, she's a little girl now, twiddling her hair. What would you like me to do, sir? All right. That's the reality of it. Okay. And when I see these comments, it's like you just dimed yourself out as a guy who can't satisfy a woman. Because a guy who can't set appropriate boundaries or is afraid to, or anytime he does, the woman blows up, gets pushback. He's a guy who's not stimulating enough desire in the relationship for her to want to follow him anywhere. So, like, when the rest of you who aren't losers, right, go to my community and you learn stuff, what you're going to learn is a lot of different things. First of all, you learn how to treat a woman in a way where she feels really good about how she's being treated. That's a technique. That's a skill set. You learn how to seduce. You learn how to make a girl feel amazing. When you make a girl feel amazing, then you can say, hey, you want to keep having these amazing things with me? Here's the rules, right? Here's the things. And these rules aren't arbitrary. We can talk about them together. It's not me pounding my fists and, setting the rules in stone. We can discuss the rules so you understand why they're there. Many of them are not going to change, but we can talk about them. We can communicate like a healthy couple. But here are the rules. And the reason that we have the rules or the boundaries and standards is because we want all this good stuff that's happening to grow and to continue. And we don't want to allow an opportunity for us to put a wedge between us, for us to end up in a place where we fall out of attraction, where we fall out of desire, where we end up doing the wrong thing, end up doing something you would be embarrassed about. I mean, this woman who's got this crush on her trainer, she's should be embarrassed. She should be she's wearing skimpy clothes and trying to get her trainer's attention and crying in the car. That is embarrassing. This woman should be ashamed of herself. How fucking embarrassing, right? So, like, here's why we have these boundaries, these standards, these rules. You don't want to embarrass yourself, lady, right? But you can't have that conversation with a girl if there is no, if there isn't the benefits for her to want to have that conversation. If she is not having the reward and the reason for wanting to change some of her behaviors and have some boundaries and standards, then guess what? She won't. So when I hear a comment like what's posted here, I left it up here. Again, what you're telling me is that you can't please a woman. You're talking about how I treat women. My very hot girlfriend's been with me for a while, and I have a lot of very hot exes that didn't make it to an out to a long-term relationship past a certain point, but they were happy in the relationship. I know it's because of how you treat them. What this tells me is you don't know how to treat a woman, because if you try to execute a boundary or standard, then she's not going to listen. She's not going to care about your boundary or standard. That tells me that she has no emotional buy-in to do so. There's no reward for her. She'll just meet another guy because you're nothing to her. The sex is average at best with you. She will get railed by someone else. She'll get somebody else to pay for her. She'll get somebody else to treat her nice. You think treating a woman nice, that's really what it's going to take? If I just treat her nice, then all my problems are solved. It's because you don't understand attraction, my friend. So for you to put that negative comment up, I love it. I'm so glad you did that. It gives me a chance to use you as an example of how not to be. So for the rest of the guys to hear it, you guys understand, like, shit, man, if I'm trying to execute boundaries and standards and I get pushback every single time from every woman I'm with, what's the problem here? What's the theme? The problem is me. Okay. The problem is I am not creating enough of a reward for her to want to follow my boundaries and standards. So the sex isn't where it needs to be. The emotions aren't where it needs to be. Okay. I need to up my seduction game. That's first thing that you can recognize. Second thing is maybe I'm not communicating my boundaries and standards in a way that resonates with her. So now a guy knows he needs to up his communication skills and how he handles communicating boundaries and standards appropriately with a woman. And then the third thing is there's an element of maybe he's selecting women who just aren't good for long-term relationships. Women that no matter how good or bad the sex is, they're just going to not have boundaries and standards. There's some women, not all, some women who will just break boundaries and standards and will not care no matter what. And maybe he's gravitating to those women who are more like that. But do not, guys listening who aren't just making negative comments, do not gravitate towards the third thing and thinking that's the only thing. Okay, because that tends to be an ego protection. Oh, I'm just picking the wrong woman. So if I find the right woman, all is going to be great in the world. Listen, the right women are built, not born. Okay, you have to have the seduction skills to create the emotional buy-in for her to want to follow you. That's the first thing, which this guy obviously doesn't have. The second thing is you have to be willing to execute those boundaries and standards and be man enough to be serious, to lead, and to communicate them in a way that she understands. Okay, which is sometimes assertive, sometimes more open communication and exploring the ideas, right? There's a lot of different things that'll depend on the circumstance. But you have to have the ruthlessness to be able to have them in the first place and to be able to say, I'm not going to budge on these. This is the standard. If you don't have that, you're not going to do too well. All right. Hey, well, I guess I'll end the video ish. That was weird. I accidentally went back. I backed myself out, so everyone figures I'm done. That's okay. We'll go back here. Just reading the comments. I don't want to leave anything unturned. Here's a question. If you were your ex's best, but she revenge cheated on you because you were not paying attention to her and taking her for granted, and she wants you back, should you accept her? That's going to be a question that you have to answer for yourself. I'll give you my opinion, but that's the one you have to answer for yourself. So, no, I say that. I understand that. That's a very common question. Here's the thing. First of all, and this is what guys will hire me for on this. I've helped a lot of guys with this. You have to, and at least get in the community, okay, like, and get some feedback there. But here's the thing. If she revenge cheated, there's a whole lot of problems there. But you want to start with this. You want to start with, how do you know? You don't know necessarily right off the bat that you are her sexual best. She has cheated, so you need to assume that you're not, and then she needs to prove otherwise. That make any sense? You have to sort of look at the evidence to that, and it's very difficult to do that objectively on your own. I've had guys in session with me, and they've learned that they were the sexual best, and it was just more of a revenge cheat or something with her and her insecurity and her self-esteem, and that's why she cheated. But he was, the evidence showed that he was the sexual best. But I've had a lot of situations, more situations than not, though, where the guy really isn't the sexual best. He just doesn't want to admit that. And so that's the first thing, is you got to really figure out, is that true or not? The reason you need to figure that out is just knowing if you need to up your selection as well as your seduction game or not. Like, it's really understanding, and it's not necessarily for her, but for future women. You know what I mean? So that's the first question. Is that true? You said if you were her best. Well, is that true? You really need to sort that out. It's very difficult to do on your own. All right. Not saying impossible, but it's difficult. Now, let's assume, though, that you were her best. So what that means is there could be a potential future if you are her sexual best. If you're not, then she's settled with you. Therefore, there is no future. Okay. But could it work out? Is it possible? Well, based on that limited information, yes, it's possible. But I say it's possible, so then guys give that the reason then to go back to an ex. That's not the reason. Don't go back to an ex just because, well, there's a chance. You know what I mean? Not a good reason to do it. You go back, if you end up back in that scenario, look, there's a lot of things that are wrong with her and the relationship dynamic for that to happen. So, like, and again, not just wrong, there's probably things wrong with your boundaries, your standards, to include the attention you paid to her. There's probably a lot of things wrong with that. But that's not the only thing that's wrong. Right? So there's some things that are inherently wrong with her. And the question is, why would you want to go back to try to be with somebody to try to solve, in hopes that she solves all of her problems that led to her being so vindictive that she would revenge cheat? Like, that's vindictive behavior. Why would you want to be with somebody whose response is to be vindictive and to do the worst thing she could think of? You know what I mean? That's one of the worst. I mean, it's not, maybe not the worst, arguably, but it's one of the worst things she could do. Why would she do the worst thing just to be vindictive? Because you're not paying enough attention to her. Like, think about that for a minute. The level of dysfunction is pretty high for someone to do that. And so, like, I'm not saying she's not a human being who isn't capable of changing, but that's pretty far along. You got to ask yourself why you would even want to entertain trying to, we'll say, fix that problem. You're not going to fix it. She has to. So you want to, her best decisions to this point led to her fucking other dudes to get revenge. And now you're going to rely on her to fix it so you guys can have a better relationship going forward. I'm not saying it's impossible, but what are you doing, right? So you really got to ask yourself a lot of questions as to why you would even want to do it in the first place. Could it? Is it possible? It's possible. Maybe you have compelling enough reasons. It's not up to me to tell you, but I'm just bringing awareness, though, to the situation that you're dealing with a ton of problems. Why not just find a new girl where you don't have those problems? Right? And so, because we're not talking about we're not talking about problems like she has high anxiety or she's obsessive compulsive or she's got an alcohol issue and she's trying to get sober. Like, we're not talking about those things. We're talking about a problem that is inherent in her character. She feels upset because you're not paying attention to her. So she fucks another dude, like, to get revenge. So either it wasn't a revenge cheat and she was fucking another dude because she liked wanting to get fucked by that guy, meaning you're not the sexual best. See, it's almost like for her character, it's almost better if you're not the sexual best in the scenario, because at least then it's just a human temptation. I mean, what you're saying to me is you're the best she could do, and her response then is to revenge cheat, to vindictively fuck another guy, to get your attention and make you feel bad. Like, you realize that is a major character flaw, right? Worse than somebody who settled with a guy. The guy isn't her best. And so she gets horny for other guys and she didn't have good boundaries. And then she ended up cheating. Like, the girl who is with a guy who's not her best probably has better character than the girl who is revenge cheating with the guy who is the best. So now you're dealing with a character problem. Do you really want to do that? It's up to you, but do you really want to do that? Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. But you can see the problem with even trying to go down that road. You're dealing with someone who has demonstrated a very, very deeply flawed character. And so now you're going to bank on them fixing that? Maybe. I've seen it happen. I've seen guys come back from cheating. Usually not revenge cheating, though. I don't actually remember anyone coming back from that. And I've coached like thousands of guys. I can't remember a single case where a girl revenge cheated and then it worked out long term. I mean, I say that there probably is one, though. There's always that one off, but usually when they come back from it, it's not a revenge cheat. It's usually something else. The guy does have to be her sexual best, but again, sometimes he's not her sexual best and then he becomes that. That's a thing. But anyways, very good question. Unfortunately, it's a complicated one. I can't give you just oh, don't do it, do it. I mean, you come here though to this channel for better answers. You know what I mean? Like, not just the shallow, one-sided binary responses. So there you go. But I would get in the community, man, and I would explore this. Yeah. So yeah. So yeah, man, I would get in the in this is there's a desire to want to right the wrong by getting back with this person. Through my experience, most guys who get back with an ex and try to rekindle that, once they get her back, then they don't want her anymore. It's usually more about the guy's ego. She violated his ego by cheating or discarding him. So then he feels like he wants her back. And it feels like attraction. It feels like desire. It feels like, man, I can't get her off my mind. But really, what it is his own ego. He doesn't know that. You know, your ego's not making an announcement that, hey, I've been injured. So it's an ego injury that you're trying to correct through this scenario in the other person. And that's what happens with most guys. Now, you can correct that ego injury without getting back in the old relationship. That's the better choice. What usually happens when guys try to get their ex back, which is why I'm not one of those get your ex back coaches, even though I'm actually better at it than most of those coaches. Like I can get most guys back into being with their ex. I can get most guys to get their ex back. Not 100%, but most of the time. But most of the time that I've done it, what ends up happening is they realize all the reasons why they broke up in the first place. They fix themselves a bit. So they're not the problem anymore. But now they're realizing the parts where she was the problem. And the attraction just goes away. And the attraction goes away because the guy satisfied and healed his ego injury by getting her to desire him again. So once she gets that to happen, he gets that to happen, his ego injury is now satisfied. And so then he's like, oh, I really don't feel like I used to feel. That's what ends up happening. And that's really, even though we could say maybe the girl deserves it or this and that, but I don't necessarily think that's always true. I think that's really bad for the girl too. It's bad for the guy. It's bad for her. To rope a girl back in and make her rekindle all these feelings, just to have you lose feelings because, you didn't realize that it was really just a ego injury and that was your whole motivation. You didn't realize that. So there's a lot of awareness that has to happen here. And that's why, again, the community is there. I really recommend we explore those things. You know what I mean? So let's continue and then I'm going to close. Bum, 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 bum. Well, looks like that guy removed his comment. What's the matter, pussy? You don't want to put your comment up again? Your little negative comment, you fucking pussy. Fucking coward, man. Internet cowards. You said it, bitch. Why don't you fucking put it back up? Put it back up for everybody to see, you fucking bitch. God. Oh my God. I hope I really wish for the day I run into these internet warriors in person. My God. To write some shitty ass comment and then no apology or retraction statement. I'm going to delete it because I look like a dork. Well, you're, I love it. Luckily, we got it on film. All right. Well, I've been on a lot longer than I expected, so I'm going to log off. Enjoyed my Saturday morning with you guys. If you guys like me doing a stream at this time, let me know. I'm trying to see when is the best time for me to stream live. Okay, so I'm doing a lot of live streams. I was going to do one yesterday. I didn't get to it. My primary job is not YouTube, believe it or not. It's actually in coaching and helping men. Okay. And so, here's another question. Oh, just a comment. You were there. Sorry, we'll go back to the Zing King here. We were together for 11 years. I got it, man. I get it. And that's hard to walk away from 11-year relationship. There's a lot of history there. So I'm not like shitting all over you, but it, that this is going to take like on the surface, I would say if we're talking about probabilities of success, don't take her back, right? That's if we're just going on probabilities, we're a bunch of like autistic, high functioning autistic people just looking at numbers, right? You don't go back with this girl. But if there's what it sounds like to me though, is there's a lot of nuance here and a lot of things you need to work out on an inner game side to be able to be very, very sure and accepting of whatever decision you're making, whether it's not to call her, not to go back, or whether it is to open up those doors. It sounds like you got some inner game work to do to become very sure of yourself and satisfied with your decision. There's probably some missing pieces, some awareness things, some things you need to become more aware of. So yeah, dude, get in the community, shoot me a DM. Maybe we need a consult. Maybe we have you join a program. I mean, it's not that you are not successful with women like or something. It's just that people who join my program or do a little bit of deeper work, they're usually successful and they're wanting to be more successful. All right. And so that may be the case with you when it comes to dating relationships. It's not that you're some abysmal failure or girls don't like you. And so now you have to join the community, which, if that's the case, of course, guys should still join. But the guys who really invest in themselves are usually guys who are, have some successes. You know what I mean? That might be you. I mean, you kept a relationship going for 11 years, but was it really the optimal relationship? You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things to evaluate here. And so my suggestion is at least whether you do a program or not, get in the community and ask the question. And we can talk about it a lot deeper there. You know what I mean? Because it's a complicated one. And here's the thing. The short answer is, yeah, don't reach out. Don't go for it. But you don't want to make that decision, but then always wonder what could have been. Well, should I, you know what I mean? It's not where you want to be. So we got to get your mind to a place where you're really, really sure of what the right answer is. Okay. Here is one before I leave. How common is it for women who cheat to get caught more or less on purpose? That's pretty common. I don't know statistically how common that is. So how common is it for women to get caught on purpose? A lot of times women get caught on purpose because they're cucking the other guy. They want to see his reaction. They don't say that overtly, but covertly. And trust me, I know because years ago, I'm not proud of this, okay? And I don't recommend it, but years ago, I didn't care whether or not I was the cheating person. I was a traveling military guy and I just didn't give a fuck. So by not giving a fuck and not caring, I had married women and women with boyfriends all sleep with me. I was the guy they cheated with for different times, early years and years ago. I have different standards now and I don't want to be that person, but I didn't care before and that was wrong of me. But in me being wrong and doing that though, I learned a lot. And what I learned was that women have the special enjoyment when it comes to knowing the angst that they're causing the guy that they have at home. That's the nefarious thing. That's why I did those cucking videos. It's backed up by enough research to be valid. What I'm saying about cucking to be valid, but I was the other guy, and I can tell you, and anyone who's been in that position will tell you. I mean, these girls it's not just the fact that they're having sex with me. That's not the thrill. I mean, that's some of the thrill, but that's not all of it. It's a greater thrill knowing that they're having sex with who they feel in their head is better than the guy they're in a relationship with. That's where it is. That's where the arousal comes from, to a point where they'll they'll call the guy right in front of me and be like, okay, I'll see you later. Oh, I'm just out. Oh, and be ambiguous and then go, okay, I love you. See you later. Tell the guy she loves him. Tell him all the things he needs to hear, and then roll right over and want me inside of her. Like that's it. Like she's getting aroused just by telling the dude, yeah, I'll be home later, by putting on that show, knowing that he is being cucked, right? Like she knows it. She makes her arousal even more. And then boom, she's wanting to hook up again, usually. She's wanting to go for round 2 or 3 because you know what I mean? Because that's what's stimulating her. And she doesn't really understand or know why. But that's why. If you understand hypergamy, that's what it is. So a lot of women get caught on purpose because they want to cuck the guy. They want to see that reaction and be further aroused. They want to continue with terrible boundaries. Like this girl in the cheating, the where she's obsessing over a trainer. She tells her husband in detail about the obsession and then refuses to stop seeing the trainer. Listen, if she told the story and said, but I cut the guy off, I blocked him, not that he's trying to reach out to me, but I blocked him. I've changed gyms. I no longer have a membership at the old one. I'm not hiring a trainer for a while. And if I do, it'll be a woman. Had she said all of that after telling the story, then I could say she was telling the story because she felt guilty. See, the lie is that, well, women do this because they feel guilty. It's a lie. This woman in the story I just read didn't feel guilty. She felt arousal by telling that story to the guy who she's cucking, her husband. Because if that weren't true, then she wouldn't continue to see the personal trainer. And there very well likely may be a sexual relationship with the personal trainer, then she's just not telling that part. So a lot of times what you'll have, a common thing, is a woman will tell about the other guy. She will talk about the other guy. She'll talk about her friend from work. All of a sudden, she's got a new friend, right? And she'll tell you stories about him and all this stuff. And she's fucking the guy, but she won't tell you that part. And so, like, that's all part of that cucking psychology. You can go look in the videos I've done on that. So it does happen. It is somewhat common, but I wouldn't say it's the most common though. I don't know what there's no data on it that I'm aware of. I think sometimes women do get caught on purpose. I think a lot of times though, women will never get caught. And the guy never knows. I would say from personal experience and observation, more times than not, the girl never gets caught. She does it, never gets caught. She has, whether it's a one-off one night stand or whether it's several months of an affair and then it fizzles out, the husband never fucking finds out. And because the husband doesn't want to find out. That's why. The husband doesn't want to set boundaries or standards, and he's not ruthless enough to try to figure out what his fucking wife or girlfriend is actually doing. And so she does it and he never finds out. It that marriage turns into a sexless marriage, ends in divorce. She's cheated on him and he never figured it out. Divorce papers are signed. They go on their separate ways. He never finds out about the affair she had for a few months. That's I think more common, but it's hard to say, you know. No, bro. The community is free. So like if you're going to go to the community and sign up, that's free. I offer a lot of free services to help guys out to get them started. Because by the time you get into a coaching program with me, if you have some momentum going already with my material, that's a help, right? I have Mastermind and Elite, and those are membership programs. DM me about that. We can talk about cost. That is a cost. The membership program is usually an upfront fee and then a small monthly or something like that to stay in. It depends. It's not out of range though. Do you know what I mean? It's very affordable. And then I have the psychopath playbook inner game course that's going to drop. That's going to be pretty inexpensive. So that's going to give you a month of coaching with me at a very low rate. So just get in the community. The community is free, dude. I'm glad you like the way. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for the comment. I have a lot of gratitude for comments like that. Thank you. Um, yeah, Lynn says I can see why I limit friendships with other women. Yeah, yeah. I know you do. You have to be careful, man. Like you have to be careful about your social circles. It can be very difficult too for women because a lot of the women they hang out with are very competitive with them. Women can be backstabbing towards each other. They can feel threatened about their friends. So it's very difficult sometimes for women to find good friendships. But you have to be resilient. You know, you have to hold good standards. And even if you have friends who are not perfect, I certainly have plenty of friends who are a little bit fucked up, okay, not perfect. You hold good boundaries and standards with those people so that whatever their issue is, it doesn't affect you. You still want to surround yourself with better people for your own success. But like, I'll give an example. Let's say you have a friend you've known for years and they don't live the life that exactly how you would want it. And maybe some of their standards aren't so good and you don't agree with some of what they do. Are you going to dump that person that you've known for so long and just I don't why would you do that? That sounds a bit narcissistic to me. That advice is given out a lot in self-help spaces. Oh, to dump all the people that you have history with. Like I don't know that you should, but you don't have to necessarily make that person have free access to your whole life. You don't need to be hanging out with that person every day, right? You can still maintain relationships and friendships with people who don't live life the way that you would want to, but then you set appropriate boundaries and standards for how those relationships can exist so it doesn't affect you in a bad way. And then you get circles of friends that you interact with more often who are successful and who are living the life that you would want. You see, that's what you do. But anyway, I've been on too long and I have to go enjoy my Saturday with my girlfriend. All right. We got things to do. Because of I just want to point this one out. I keep noticing comments. Why cheat? It is a bad character flaw, but gotta understand there, Lynn, that it's a bad character flaw, but it's also a drive though. Like being attracted to somebody else and then having that temptation to kind of pursue or let things go and move along in a direction, right? Um, that's pretty normal. It's pretty human. And so it is your boundaries and standards that is based in your character too, that allows you to set up limits so that you don't end up in a situation that you're not proud of with somebody else. And that's all that a guy should be asking for in his relationship. And that should be supported by the woman that he's with. And if it's not the case, if the woman that the guy is with is not supporting having those boundaries and those standards so that things are going to go right, then, he needs to figure out a different relationship. You know, at any rate, I think I'll be on tomorrow too. So see you guys then. Let me know if you like this time slot, and I'll talk to you next time.